Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gamers Realm. Good evening, and today is a special edition, Sega edition. And today, myself, Mr. Switch, I'm here and my fellow host, Retro Styles.
Howdy, everybody.
We got the QA Ninja.
Hello, everyone.
We got Chichuki,
Yo, well, how's everybody doing?
and we got Ian of Austin.
Hey, everyone.
And I want to welcome back to the podcast, Lizzy Hedgehog.
Hi.
And I want to thank you so much, Lizzy, for bringing us our special guest today, will be Tom Kalinski.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here.
Very excited to have you here, and I want to thank everyone for showing up and all the guys from the crew. And we've been doing this podcast for maybe going on our fourth month, and it's just exciting to have yourself, Tom, into podcast. So we'll have some questions for you, and we're gonna enjoy, having to start off with the QA Ninja. He's gonna be our main moderator host. Take it from there, QA.
Oh, hey. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you sound fine.
All right. Well, Tom, thank you for coming and taking everything. A huge fan of everything that you've done and for everything and for Sega and everything. Thank you for being here and everything. If you can maybe take us through a brief of your history from coming from having worked with Matel also and working with Sega, like some of the things that you've done.
Oh, my gosh. So I'm old, so I did a lot of stuff. I started with Matel in 1971, for crying out loud. I know you guys weren't born then. And I worked as a product manager initially and worked my way up, worked on the Barbie business and kind of turned it around and got it going. And then was fortunate enough to start working on what became Masters of the Universe, He-Man, Masters of the Universe. I Have the Power, and got involved in doing those television shows. And anyway, it was just a great run at Mattel. I loved the company. I loved the people. I got the urge to do something entrepreneurial, and a friend of mine, a Chinese friend of mine, said, let's buy Matchbox toys out of receivership in the UK, which is bankruptcy in the UK. And so we did. And we took 3 years to restructure it and turn it around. Most of the business was in Europe, so I spent most of my time in Europe, but also here in the US. And it was the hardest 3 years of my life. I was traveling. My wife says I traveled 280 days out of 360 those years. Wow. It's amazing. We have 5 children. Anyway, we took it public, turned it around, sold it. And I had known the Sega people from my days in Los Angeles at Mattel, when Sega back in those days was owned by Paramount Pictures. Barry Diller and Mike Eisner were actually at Paramount Pictures, were in charge of the Sega business in those days. A lot of people don't know that.
Oh, wow.
And anyway, I had been familiar with Sega. I'd been familiar with the founder, Dave Rosen, who was a board member. And they kept asking me to get involved with their business. And when I was at Matchbox, they wanted me to work on their distribution in Europe, because we had very strong distribution in Europe. And I never did it because I didn't think the difference between the Master System and the NES was significant enough. So I turned them down a couple times. And when I sold Matchbox and was on vacation with my family in Hawaii, Hayao Nakayama literally tracked me down in Maui at Waikoloa and said, hey, I got to show you something. You said 8-bit difference wasn't enough. I want to show you 16-bit so you can see what a real difference is. And I want to show you a handheld color LCD screen device as well. So I flew from Hawaii to Japan, and I literally fell in love with 16-bit. I thought it was so dramatic to me. Because imagine, I actually, while I had paid some attention to 8-bit technology, I really was more familiar with Intellivision. And so the difference between Intellivision and 16-bit, you can imagine, was just so dramatic to me. And I fell in love with the technology and liked the company, and ended up accepting to run Sega of America. But I made a deal with him. I said, you got to let me make the decisions for the US marketplace. And he said, okay. so that's what we did.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I think in the long run, it wound up turning out very well, especially for obviously like the Sega Genesis and everything. with that being, would you be able to take us through some of the, because at the time I believe, Sega had came out around, the Genesis came out around 1989 with 16-bit entry, and then they were trying to make a run against Super Nintendo, and that when the SNES came out in 1991, what was that like? How did you guys feel about the Super Nintendo coming out to challenge you guys in the 16-bit market?
Yeah, well, you're right on the timing. I think the Genesis in the U.S. and Mega Drive in Europe was introduced in late 1889, and the results were not what Japan wanted, and that was one of the reasons they came after me, and so part of the strategy to me was you had to be very different from Nintendo. You couldn't try to do the same things. You couldn't try to go after the same audience. You had to be go after a different marketplace. And so the strategy that we employed, and it really had been, they'd been thinking about it in the U.S. before I got there. I want to make that clear. It wasn't just me. And let's go after the older age audience. Let's go after teenagers. Let's go after the college market. Let's do games that are edgier. Let's do more strategy. Let's do more sports. Let's do products based on American licenses that are edgier. Let's not forget the all of the market, but let's really focus in marketing on the older side of the market. Because remember, if we get the 16-year-old boy in the house to play with Genesis, his younger 9-year-old brother is going to want to do it as well. So that was the fundamental strategy. And I went back to Japan after spending a few months in the U.S. office and listening to guys talk about what we should be doing and having my own thoughts on what we should be doing. And I went back to Japan and I said in the so-called decision room, hey guys, what we're going to do is the price is too high. We've got to lower the price of the hardware. We've got to take Altered Beast out of the hardware because in Kansas and Oklahoma, they think that's devil worship. And it's not a popular idea. So we're going to put our best title in with the hardware, which was under development. And by the way, we can talk about Sonic in a few minutes. But certainly to me, it was clear that Sonic was the clear going to be the best piece of software we could put in with the hardware and the best title we were doing. And so, and we're going to take on Nintendo in advertising. We're going to make fun of them. We're going to position them as the little kid's toy. We're going to go after the older audience, the older teen, the older college, even the adult male. And we're going to be very aggressive in what we do. Well, nobody in the room agreed with anything that I said. They all were talking in Japanese, and my right arm was a guy named Shinobu Toyota, was translating in my ear as fast as he could, basically saying, well, they don't think anything he said is correct. And so I thought, well, this is the shortest career anybody ever had. And Nintendo, Nakayama actually got up, the chairman of the company, and he kicked a chair over and he started for the door, and he turned and he said to me in English, which he spoke well, nobody agrees with anything he said, but when I hired you, I promised you could make the decisions for the US market, so go ahead and do it. And that was that. And he was true to his word for quite a long while. And that was why we were able to do so quickly so many of the things that we did. And why the company became successful and why we were able to develop the business so rapidly. Now, you asked the question about what did we think about Super Nintendo? It's a great question. We actually, of course, managed to get hold of one early in Japan, and we brought it to the US. And I remember Al Nielsen plugging it in and starting to play whatever software we had for it. And we thought, wow, this isn't as scary as we thought it was going to be. This is okay. We're going to be able to compete with these guys. So we were pretty happy about it, actually.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Does anyone else in the group here have any questions or anything for Tom, or before I jump back in?
You can go ahead on QA and just call out the guys on. Go ahead and throw your questions out. And we're all a little nervous here right now.
I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little starstruck right now.
well, thank you. I'm no star, but thank you.
I mean, okay, so with that being said, going back, so you touched on some great points about making content, recognizing your audience. knowing your fan base and recognizing potential where if Nintendo had a gap where they were more kid friendly, so to speak, especially with Mario and Duck Hunt, things like that, you noticed that there was a kind of a gap in the market that you could address. One thing that I would say historically Sega Genesis shined on specifically, which actually made history later on, was sure you remember Mortal Kombat.
Sure.
The original Mortal Kombat, when Sega Genesis was ported to the Sega Genesis, Sega made the decision to keep it as close to as possible with initial gore and everything and the blood. It was controversial at the time, kind of sparked the whole ESRB rating to follow all the legal proceedings. Do you feel like, was Sega nervous at all about that whole thing? Did you feel like that was going to be like the straw that broke the camel's back, or did you guys feel it was an opportunity to succeed in that still, or?
Oh, sure. We had mixed feelings, frankly. I mean, heck, I had young children at the time, and I was a little bit concerned about having a video game on a home television screen that had real blood in it. On the other hand, getting back to what the strategy was, we were after an older audience. We were trying to differentiate ourselves. And by the way, the arcade version was so successful, we wanted to be true to the arcade version. And even before we did Mortal Kombat, or we allowed Mortal Kombat to be done with real blood, excuse me, we had started the work on our own Sega rating system. We'd started it with Dr. Arthur Pober. I had known him from the toy industry as a PhD and very involved in the children advertising review guidelines. And he got together a collection of sociologists, child psychologists, child development experts, as well as psychologists for older people. And we put together our own Sega rating system. So we did have a rating system underway because we knew eventually, if you're just like the movie industry, if you want to be attractive to the entire marketplace, you have to do product that's attractive to the entire marketplace. One story I think that's been told before is I actually went down to Hollywood and I met with Jack Valenti, the head of the Motion Picture Association, because obviously G, PG, PG-13, R was well established in the movie industry. And I tried to talk him into letting the video game industry use his system. And he kind of shunned me and poo-pooed me and said, no, you video game guys, that's a small industry. We don't want to get involved with you. Go away. And so that's why we actually ended up doing our own rating system. By the way, I wish he was still alive so I could say to him, well, the video game industry is now 2.5 times the size of the movie industry. What do you think of that, Jack? but anyway, so we had our own system, and I did have mixed feelings. But again, being true to the strategy, we wanted to be after the entire marketplace, and particularly the older marketplace. So that's why we needed to allow Mortal Kombat to be done with real blood in it. And as you know, what happened when Nintendo did it with green gore, the reaction in the marketplace is, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
People don't have green gore in them. This is silly. It's not realistic. And so we outsold Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis, I think somewhere between 5 and 10 to 1 over Nintendo's version with green gore in it.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. And what was funny about it was, for Mortal Kombat Part 2, Super Nintendo wound up putting in the blood. They wound up putting in more of the goriness to kind of combat with Sega Genesis. So I would really say that Sega really kind of pushed that to the forefront, just to be the ability to have multiple audiences, not just for kids. I kind of feel like Sega Genesis kind of served as like the trailblazer of that. You guys kind of like carried the cross, so to speak, for that, for other systems to kind of do it.
Well, I think that's true. And I think there were other examples besides Mortal Kombat, obviously, that were really older appealing. And I remember when we started having all these discussions in Washington with Senator Cole and Senator Lieberman, I tried to explain to them that we were trying to be like Disney. Disney has a lot of G-rated movies. They have a lot of PG-rated movies, but they also own that now, of course, I forgot the name of it, that studio that the Weinsteins ran, and it did adult R-rated movies. So we had to be more broad in the kind of product we brought out if we wanted to appeal to the entire marketplace. And I remember Cole and Lieberman didn't really buy that. You know, they said, "Oh, now you're a kid's business. What are you trying to tell us? You're a kid's business." Of course, that was what Howard Lincoln had told them, that it was a kid's business. And I said, "Well, you'll be surprised to know that the average age of our player right now, in 1993 or whenever that was, is 18 years of age." And of course, today, as you guys know, the average age of a game player is, I think, 31 or 32, according to Sony. So we started the trend of let's get more adults playing video games. Let's keep them playing video games for as long as possible. And that's one of the things I'm actually proudest of, having been, not that we did it, but we started it. And today you have so many 40-year-olds playing video games, and sometimes they're doing it by themselves, sometimes they're doing it with their families. And you have so many women playing video games. And I think that's all great. It's great for the industry. It's why the industry is now as large as it is. You know, as I said earlier, a couple times, 2.5 times the size of the movie industry.
Yeah, it's much more diverse compared to where it was in the 90s. I have to say it's very diverse in age and everything, which is great. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, and then you guys, I feel like you were related when you were creating the gap between the Sega Saturn and the Gen 32 add-on, which I thought was, in hindsight, a really good idea. What was the thought process behind the Sega 32X? Was it something that was it initially intended to be a permanent 32-bit system, or was Sega Saturn going to be the takeover eventually?
Yeah, now we're getting into the area where I started having issues with Japan management. I wanted to keep Genesis alive as long as I possibly could. And I was really worried about Sega Saturn for a lot of reasons. Joe Miller, my very close friend and right arm who ran R&D for us and was a brilliant guy, was very concerned that, number one, there wasn't going to be enough software to support it at launch. And that was when we thought the launch was going to be in the fall. And he thought that the specs could have been better. The performance could have been better. And there was a lot of things that went on in trying to influence Japan that we could make it better. And we certainly shouldn't be introducing it as early as we should. And we should try to keep the Genesis alive longer. So 32X was really a step in that direction. Let's just do an add-on to the Genesis. We were working on 3 or 4 titles at Sega USA for it, and Japan was supposed to work on 3 or 4 titles for it. As it turned out, Sega Japan never brought out their titles for it, and we had 2 or 3 of ours, and that was it. So here we had, again, what I didn't want to have happen, a launch with in this case, it was an accessory to a platform, but in any case, or an amplifier to a platform. But we didn't have enough software to make it successful. So that was the main issue, I think, with 32X. I think if we had done it correctly, it could have been successful, and it could have helped keep the Genesis family alive for much, much, much longer.
Yeah, it definitely had a really good library of games too, the 32X. I think one of the main things, I mean, I hear a lot about why the Saturn failed. You know, I think one of the biggest things was the fact that it didn't have a actual proper Sonic game at launch.
Yeah, that's right.
In hindsight, I feel like Sega try to correct that by having a Sonic Adventures game for the Dreamcast to kind of correct what happened with the Saturn. But I feel like that alone was one of the bigger things I would say is the type of the list of games. But I feel like, to touch on your point about knowing your market, like whereas Japan, it seemed like they were pushing our arcade games a lot for Sega Saturn, which arcades were fairly big in the mid 90s, but it's in Japan, whereas there wasn't as much of it. There was more of an emphasis like on other things, like say Sonic the Hedgehog. To your point, I'd say they should have allowed maybe Sega of America to kind of have more of an input. It seemed they were kind of taking over.
Well, yeah, they basically stopped agreeing with us and stopped listening with us and started demanding that we do things their way, which is kind of interesting when you think about it. Here in the United States, we we'd grown to over 50% market share. And in England and part of Europe, they had grown to a huge market share versus Nintendo. And yet Sega Japan executives felt that they knew better, even though their market share was, I don't think it ever got over 12%. So here you got the parent company with a small market share trying to tell the divisions out in the Western world what they should do and how they should do it. They even suggested we use their commercials, which is kind of funny because, you know, they weren't nearly as good, frankly. So it was a strange situation where instead of whereas the original promise from Nakayama was you make the decisions, it was all of a sudden we're going to make the decisions and you're going to have to go along with it. And that was very, very difficult for me. And of course, it didn't work out very well.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that. I mean, I also, I read somewhere, I forget where it was, about the possibility of having linked up with Sony at one point, right? Where Sony made a pitch to Sega to connect with.
Yeah, you have to remember back then, Sony didn't have much of a video game business. They were just learning how to do software. And Olaf Olason, who was a terrific person, a PhD in physics from, I forgot which university, but a brilliant guy. He's an Icelandic guy from Iceland. He's also an author, by the way. He's written best-selling mysteries in Iceland. And I said to him, Olaf, having a best-selling book in Iceland is like having a best-selling book in San Mateo County. But anyway, he was a brilliant guy, and we got along very, very well. And we at Sega America lent them some of our developers to help them learn how to develop video game software. And they had a studio down in Santa Monica. And so that was going on. And we were talking about the next hardware platform. And Olaf and I were talking, and we said, you know, and by the way, his boss was Mickey Shuloff, who was head of all of Sony of America, and also a very good guy. And we said, you know, instead of one of us losing money or both of us losing money on a hardware platform, why don't we do one joint hardware platform? It could be the Sony Sega platform or the Sega Sony platform, whatever you want to call it. And we'll each develop software for it. And those sales and profits will go to whichever company developed the software. So the Sony titles will be Sony's revenue and profit, and the Sega ones will be Sega revenue and profit. Sounds like a good idea. And we went to Japan, and Sony Japan actually thought it was a good idea. Sega Japan did not think it was a good idea. And I remember, I think one of the comments Nakayama made is, why should we help them get in the video game business? Well, it's better to be in it together than being competing with one another was my answer, but obviously nobody agreed with that. So that was, that's what happened. We could have had imagine what the world would be like today if we'd had a Sony Sega PlayStation 5 coming out, and all the software that was, or not all, but 50% of the software that was on it was from Sega and the rest was from Sony and other third parties. What a different world we'd have.
That would be something I could only dream of. I could only dream of that, but.
Sorry.
What are you doing, Lizzie?
Oh, my cat.
Hey, QA, you want to start calling out for questions?
Oh yeah, definitely. Does anyone else have any questions or anything else they want to speak of with Mr. Kalinski here? Or?
Yeah, Tom, were you involved in any of the contests in the 90s? Because you had Lifesavers, you had Coca-Cola, you had Fruit Roll-Ups. When I was a little girl in '93, there were these really cool contests. Fruit Roll-Ups had done this really cool thing where you could be president of Sega for a day.
Yes.
But you had to get all these fruit roll-ups and eat them to find the thing in the box. Or you could win a Sega Genesis, the Game Gear, the Sega CD. Were you involved in any of those contests? Because those were some really awesome contests.
Oh, sure. Again, we had, as you know, we had really great people in the company coming up with marketing ideas. And in the promotions area, we had a guy named Tom Abramson, who was unfortunately recently passed away. And he ran a lot of these promotions, and he was very good at partnering with whether it was McDonald's or Fruit Roll-Ups or Lifesavers or whoever. Really good at putting together these promotions. And so, yeah, I remember having these little kids come in and they're going to be president of the day. They had to sit next to me and do all the boring stuff I do all day in the office, or did in those days in the office, and show them around Sega of America. But certainly, I didn't come up with any of those ideas, Lizzie, but I certainly was involved and approved them and helped make sure we had the funding to do them.
Oh, wow. That was so much fun. I love the Lifesavers. When I talked to Al, I told him I tried to collect all 10. You had to buy Sonic Spinball and turn in 10 of those wrappers, and Sega would send you a $10 check. I tried to buy as many Lifesavers as I can. I ended up taking the wrappers because they had to have specifically Sonic on them. I was a bad girl sometimes, but I really wanted that $10 check from Sega.
Well, I hope it didn't rot your teeth eating all those Lifesavers.
Not really, but the thing is, after a while, you're like, oh, I hate this candy. I'm just gonna take the wrapper.
Well, we had such a good marketing department, Al came up with so many great ideas, and the mall tour was, something else that he really came up with, and of course he was involved in all of our advertising and all the stuff we did on college campuses, and Madeline Canepa Schroeder and Diane Fernacier and Pam Kelly and Madeline or Michaeline Christine Risley. We're one of the few video game companies that had 4 or 5 women in senior marketing positions, and for a largely male business at the time, and it really worked out well for us.
That is awesome. Well, except for the pasta one. That commercial was deceiving. I thought it was gonna taste delicious when I ate that pasta. That pasta was gross. I was like, I'm gonna find that kid. I was like,
I never tried it.
It wasn't good. My mom was like, but you wanted it. I go, yeah, because I fell in love with the commercial. The commercial made it look cool. So of course you're gonna it draws you in. So hey, cool, I'm gonna try it. Oh, that was gross. Not good.
Oh, such good time. You guys were a lot of fun with your marketing. I remember even for almost every console, your commercials were always cutting edge. They were always so funny and memorable. For every single console that you guys released, it always has the most memorable commercials.
Yeah, we tried really hard at that, and we had a great advertising agency, Goodby Silverstein. Well, originally it was Bozell Amazon. Then we changed it to Goodby Silverstein, and they were so much fun to work with, and we did a lot of really creative commercials. I used to get nasty letters from the Nintendo folks about our commercials because they were kind of attacking Nintendo a lot of the time.
Yeah, I remember that one commercial. That sales guy who's pointing to the Super Nintendo, but the guy's like, "No, tell me about the Sega Genesis. I want the Sega Genesis." He's like, "Oh, you don't want that one." I love that commercial.
One of my favorites that I got a nasty letter from Howard on was for Game Gear, the Color Game Gear. We were comparing Color Game Gear games to Game Boy, and we used an Airedale dog, my dog, in the commercial, and the point of the commercial was, well, if you're a human, you probably want to see colors and see your games in color, but if you're a dog, you won't mind because you can only see black and white. And then we showed the dog drinking out of the toilet.
Wow.
That's good.
It was fun times.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I wish they would air those commercials again. I mean, just for fun. That would be heck yeah. Drawing that new crowd that's starting to fall in love with the Sonic movie. They'd be like, oh, I never knew this existed back then. Wow. It might open doors.
Well, I was really happy that the Sonic movie did so well. It was #1 for a couple of weeks in a row in theaters, which is just terrific again for the brand.
Yeah, I saw it 3 times in the theater.
And Tom, I got my question. I got to bring it out. Thinking of the movie right now. Back in the early, when you guys are redesigning Sonic from Japan's version, and you guys, I think it was Madeline Schroeder who was redesigning Sonic, and you guys went through that phase. Now,
Yes.
on to when you first saw the first preview trailer of the new Sonic movie, what did you think? Was it like, oh no, or like this again, or because the
Oh
redesign?
yeah. Oh, early on. Yeah, I was a little oh my gosh, no, don't tell me they're gonna do that again. But anyway, they got it right, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely a great movie. Yeah, it's definitely saw it twice too in the theaters and bought the movie. It's one of the best, or the best gaming movie today. So
Yeah, I think
excellent.
so.
Mhm.
It
You know,
shows
Oh,
Tom, may I ask, what was one of your favorite projects to work on while you were working with Sega, minus Sonic? I mean, you may
Oh my
know,
gosh.
of course, but
Do you mean in terms of which is of the games?
yeah, yes, please.
Yeah. Oh well, that's a tough one for me. I mean, I loved I loved our sports games, by the way, and of course you know the story on we got Joe Montana football, which for a while actually outsold Madden football, and I love Madden football too. And then the Tommy Lasorda baseball, and working with Tommy Lasorda and David Robinson basketball. So I loved our sports games, and I thought they were really much better than other sports games had been. I thought they were truer to how the sports were played, and of course EA did a great job with FIFA soccer. So all of those I thought were just really terrific. But in terms of things we did in house, obviously we did Joe Montana in house, but some of the other games that were unusual, I thought, like Echo the Dolphin. I think Echo the Dolphin is a work of art, and I'm still very close with the developer Ed Annunziata. And then, of course, Toe Jam and Earl. I love Toe Jam and Earl. I think that was one of Al's favorites as well. So some of those were favorites. And then in terms of the licenses, you know, working with Disney on Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusion and Aladdin, of course, was a fantastic project and really a good game. And then with Marvel on Spider-Man. So some of those American licenses were really fun to be involved with this as well. But yeah, gosh, there's so many. It's really hard question for me to answer.
So the big question that I have is that Mario and Sonic back in the day were like the big competitors. Would you ever thought today that you would see both of them in the same game?
When it first occurred, it absolutely shocked me. I was so surprised. And I was at, how many years ago was this now when it first happened? It was at E3. And it was the racing game, right? And so I ended up, I'd never played it before, obviously. I just walked into the booth and I played, of course, I took Sonic and played against Mario and beat him, which I was very proud of. But it was shocking to me that they would be in the same game. You know, of course, now it's happening all the time, I guess. But yes, it was very much a surprise to me.
So you being around during the Game Gear era and the handheld era, would you have thought Sega would have created something on a device such as like a cell phone or a tablet? And does that make you proud to see not only it coming from the Sega and Game Gear, but coming to something that you can take in your pocket?
Yeah, and that was always one of the concerns, by the way, on Game Gear, was how do we get the size so that people can carry it around in their pocket? And the advent of mobile phones has allowed, obviously, and the technology in the mobile phones is so fantastic today that you can actually play an awful lot of very good games on your mobile phone. So I'm really happy to see that. I think, again, that's part of the reason why obviously the industry has grown the way it has, is that this now is the way that people want to interact with their video game software. Do it on the phone, do it while they're on the subway or on an airplane or sitting at home without having to turn on the big screen TV. So yeah, I think it's a great step forward.
Also, I have one more question. I know that this is probably like a generic question, but Nintendo brought Mario in mind to be their staple character. Do you think that Sega brought Sonic in mind to be their staple character, their icon, or is it just something they thought that they would just throw out there?
Oh, no, it was very much a deliberate attempt to develop the character that, as you said, just like Mario stands for Nintendo, Sonic stands for Sega. And we were searching for what that character should be. This happened about the time I joined Sega, actually. And there was some talk originally that maybe Alex the Kid could be that character. And there were other things under development. And I think you know the stories about that, where Al Nilsson really picked Sonic and said, this is the one that we need to go with. And so I'm losing my earphone here. So that was from the day one. He was to be our emblematic character that represented the company.
Awesome. Thank you for answering my questions. Those are cool.
Okay,
Chicky,
guys.
you got something? Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So
Don't be shy. It's okay.
Chicky, did you have anything for us? Or Ian?
Sorry about that. It's kind of hard to not talk over each other. Is there anything that you would say if you had a chance to do it again, you would? Maybe do it.
Oh, there's so many things. I mean, so many different things. I honestly, I don't understand why I was not persuasive enough to convince Sega of Japan to do a deal with Sony so that we had one hardware platform and shared the revenue and profits on the software. I should have been more convincing. And so, I don't know why I wasn't able to convince them of that. And then I think the other thing was I should have been able to convince them not to force this launch of Saturn in June at E3 when we weren't ready for the launch. I mean, that was a huge mistake. So there's a bunch of little things like that were mistakes. On the other hand, I think we did an awful lot of good things. So I kind of say, well, if you do the plus and minuses, we had a lot more pluses than we had minuses.
I would agree. I think the fact that Sonic still lives on and mini games actually live on is a testament to how well Sega did and is doing and is still respected and loved.
Well, and the other thing I loved about those days were we experimented with so many things. The rating system to extent was an experiment. Getting the new industry association formed was an experiment. Doing the Sega Channel, having video games available on your cable box at home was really a step forward that, of course, now with the internet, you can do that easily. But back then, you couldn't do it. It was really a hard project to do, to get video games available on TV channels, cable channels across the United States. So there's a lot of those things that we did that were really out there, and college marketing, college campus marketing, all that kind of stuff that we did was very unusual for the time.
I have one. Is it frustrating to see when you left how Sega was compared to now, how it's perceived?
Oh, sure. But you have to understand, when I left Sega, I immediately jumped into doing other things. And by the way, part of it was using video game technology to make educational curriculum more fun and interesting. So I went on to become CEO and chairman of Leapfrog, and we built it to be a $680 million company. And then I was part of Knowledge Universe, and we used video game technology to make curriculum for K-12 schools more fun and interesting, and even college curriculum more fun and interesting. So I was involved in a lot of stuff right away that took my mind off of what was going on at Sega. In fact, I didn't pay that much attention for quite a while. And I was actually quite surprised when I started paying attention again to see that Sega had fallen as far as it had in revenue. I wasn't aware of that until I looked at it many years later. So, I'm glad to see them trying to do things correctly again. I think the movie was a great step for them, and hopefully they'll continue to do things like that.
Will you come back as president if you could?
I'm too old. My God, I'm 76 now. So I'm over
I
the
would vote
hill.
for you. I'd be like, bring him back, bring him back, bring him back.
Thanks. Well, I don't think they want me. Too many arguments. But anyway, guys, I am going to have to go. This has been great fun. Thank you so much for searching me out. Thank you, Lizzy, for contacting me.
Thank you for coming down
Yeah,
with
thanks
us.
for coming on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Appreciate
No,
it.
my pleasure. Keep it up, guys. Keep up the good
It's
work.
great to have you, Tom.
Well, thank you. It's
Care,
great to
guys.
be with you.
Thank you.
Tom.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Or you guys want to go ahead and have any flight topics and something to continue? We got a good
And
Actually,
20 minutes.
I'm excited. I went shopping today, Sonic related. I want to tell you that's what I got.
What you got? What you got?
That Funko Pop thing that people been.
Oh, I saw that online.
Yes, the one that's in your Comic Con. I got it. So it looks pretty awesome. It's Super Tails and Super Silver, which I don't really understand that. But this sucker's gonna stay in the box until I get another one. Then maybe one will come out of the box.
It looks like a Sonic is a Super Saiyan or something.
It's Super Silver, but it says it's Sonic, so but it's silver. Anyways, if there's a Spencer's or it's Spencer's. Spencer's has some really cool Sonic backgrounds.
That's awesome.
Got that today.
I want that.
But you know what's cool about this? Hold on. Let's see. It's reversible.
That's That's fresh. That's pretty fresh.
That's right.
It's reversible, so you can turn it inside out. Give me a moment. Well, I have to take off the things, but yeah, as you can see, it's reversible.
Oh, it has a pouch on the inside.
Yeah,
That's cool.
it's a reversible backpack, and it has
also
its matching bag.
That's cool. So having two pouches also works in your benefit. So if you were to take it places, you can put stuff in there and on the outside. That's cool.
Oh yeah, I love this because this is part of the 60-year go. I say it says Go Sega, but 60 Sega. But it's really cool. You know, it's got its little ring, its little thing Japanese. So I got that also. And because school's around the corner, there's a Sonic lunch box too, or lunch bag.
I dig it.
So you can get these at Hot Topic. Also, if you have something called Kura Sushi, it's really awesome. Okay, so this is the way it goes. You have to eat 5 plates and it will play a video. If you eat 15 plates of sushi, it will spit out one of these balls. And depending, it's random, but you can buy it. You just have to pop it open. And
Lizzy,
here we have tape.
Lizzy, are you in Austin?
No, Houston.
Oh, you said Kura Sushi, and I was like, really?
There is some here in Houston. See? How cool is that?
Aren't you guys kind of close by?
Yes, you can buy them all if you want. It probably is easier. They're about $2.30 each of these little balls. When I got the bill after all the sushi, it was about $150.
Oh my gosh! Did you eat all that sushi?
Yes, but I also got 2 sets of every single one of these.
Oh wow!
I forget how many it was because there's a lanyard, there's tape, there's cute little keychain looking things for the lanyard. But these are awesome to collect. But they are random if you're only going to get one. If you want to get the whole thing, you have to at least eat. You have to buy some of the sushi to make it fair. You know, you can't go in the restaurant and buy only these and not buy any sushi. So,
man, that was hardcore right there.
Yes.
Awesome.
One question
Yeah.
I was actually forgot to ask Tom this, but what his opinion was like, if there was anything that came out recently that he was like, wait a minute, like we thought of that first, like what his thoughts about that were, like about like the Nintendo Switch.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
You know what? Do you remember? Okay, do you remember the Dreamcast and their, I forget what they're called, the little memory card units?
The
Yeah.
VMU,
Yeah.
What were they called?
the virtual memory unit, a
Yeah,
VMU.
the
the
virtual
VMUs.
memory units. And I was thinking that same thing. That was like right after the Tamagotchi Cyber Pets. Is that right? Then they made these virtual memory units. I thought that was just genius. And I thought everything was going to be like that. You had the Game Gear, you had the virtual memory units. And yeah, I guess I assumed that they would have done something like the Switch.
Even had like, I think the thing is, kind of going back to it, like, not saying this as a Sega fan. Okay, maybe saying this as a Sega fan, but I feel like Super Nintendo or Nintendo fans in general should also we could probably appreciate Tom Kalinski and what he did and contributed because he created such a competitive market against Nintendo. It forced Nintendo to release better products because that's what competition does. So now they're like, okay, now we have to one up Genesis, and then Genesis would go back and forth. So I feel like if Super Nintendo is so successful, they owe a lot of that success to Tom also because of what he did and kind of helped Nintendo say, wow, look at what they're doing. And then, like I showed before, the Sega Nomad, for example, like I call this the original Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Because this is literally the same thing. You can plug it to your TV, it's handheld. I mean, granted, the batteries are awful on this thing, you got to plug it to a wall. But this is basically a Switch from like 1996, 95.
Mhm.
It's always just been ahead of their time. Granted, they've had to, make a lot of sacrifices for the game universe, but everybody owes their thanks to Sega for that. I don't know. It's just me.
Yeah, definitely. I still remember I said it last time. I'm a big Nintendo fanatic. I love Nintendo, but Sega had a big part of my life too in gaming, especially as a 12-year-old wanting to go so bad. My parents went to Sam's Club, and all I wanted to do was to go play the Sonic what do you call it, display. I would only play the first two levels over and over and over again. It was just I don't know. It was like one of those times where you needed something different, something new. And my parents never bought me a Sega Genesis and all that, but I've always had a Nintendo. But still, that takes me back so much, and you appreciate so much where Sonic came and how Tom took and fought hard and to bring Sega here to America and meeting with Sonic. And I watched a few videos and learning more about how the fight was there. It was the console wars, and because of him, he definitely succeeded so much. He's very inspiring.
He had a book in back of him called Console Wars. I actually have that same book. It's about the life of Tom Kalinski. I recommend that book to you guys, Console Wars, if you haven't read it. It's a really good book. Great read.
Yes.
It was kind of interesting what he said though, because he said that he was trying to make everybody play together. Like his idea was, why can't we just share the market? Why do we have to be separate? And the fact is now we kind of are in a market where everything is shared because like Sonic's on the PlayStation, Sonic's on the phone, Sonic's on Nintendo now. So it's like everybody's in some aspect playing together. So what he wanted is virtually it's come to pass. So it's pretty cool that his idea is now implemented in a way.
Right, absolutely.
Did you guys hear about the Sega supposedly coming back with a system?
I hope
Yeah.
so.
That's what I keep hearing. I keep
Be-
hearing it, and I'm just like, "What? This is happening?" I heard it like a month ago, and the
like
rumors are starting to collect more and more. And I would go for it straight out. I'll be like, "Forget Sony." I'll be like, "Boom, going for this because we want something new." You never know.
When they came out with the new Mini, they were saying, the quote that I heard was, "Who knows what we're gonna do next?" That's all he said when he left the stage. And so, like, to me, that was like, are they working on something new? Because that would be amazing.
One of the questions I would have is, what is it that you would want to see in this system that's different from what's already out there?
Oh,
Hmm.
shocked.
That's kind of hard for me. I was happy with the games on the Genesis. I mean, I know for me, my love for Sega is the story is a little different, but similar to yours, where you went to Sam's Club to play the game because that's where I found Sonic. You know, the games actually helped me after my brain tumor surgery, because the way that Sega controller was done was like that, and it was much bigger. So since I was still in recovery, it was much easier to hold that controller and grasp it, even though I really struggled to hit the button. Still, it just gives you that extra support to hold something, because the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo controllers were, they were tiny. Remember, they were tiny, or they're square like that. So for me, it was very hard to grasp it. The Genesis controller was much bigger, which is why it meant so much to me. Which is why when I started to play the Sonic games, I was really, really bad. But it also gave me the confidence in myself that I needed since I was in school and I was still in recovery. That's why the Genesis meant so much to me, because it helped me through such a tough time. And that's something that I always want to express to Tom or to employees of Sega from the 90s. Even, in a small degree, the current Sega today, let them know, Sega really means a lot to me, because it helped me through a very tough time in my life when I was dealing with a brain tumor that nearly killed me. Even though I survived, it's the recovery and the bullies in school that you have to go through, and Sonic was right there. The Sega Genesis was right there. Those games helped me through the toughest time of my life, and it means a lot to me. That's why I always wanted to tell Tom and Al and everybody else, thank you for creating the Sega Genesis. It just was like a gift from heaven, basically, that just got me through the toughest time of my life. So I like to definitely let people know that, video games like that, they do help you. They do help you. I mean, whether it be like in my situation to help during recovery, or help you when you're, lonely or depressed or things like that. Games are really great.
Right now, this pandemic is definitely the best time for us to stay home and play some video games, play our best of the best, and whether Sega or Sony or Nintendo. And we appreciate you so much, Lizzy, for bringing Tom with us. It's really awesome, to have a friend like you, tell us the story and inspire us too as well.
Mm-hmm.
To piggyback off of what Ian was saying, and a little bit of what QA has with this Nomad, I think that if Sega came out with a newer version of the Nomad, but not with big carts in mind, something like the Switch where it was handheld and it's HDMI, but their cartridges are smaller like the Switch, I think that they would kind of make a big comeback if they did something like that, because the carts for the Switch are small enough to where the game's in there, you have a digital download. If they did the same thing with the Nomad, kind of brought it all back to where you could digital download from a big market, or you had a small cart like the Switch, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's definitely a market for Sega.
That would bring the Nomad back, but what if they didn't want to do the Nomad? What if they wanted to do something like completely revolutionary or completely new? Because it sounds like Tom's whole thing was, let's not be like X. Let's not be like Nintendo. Let's not be like Sony, unless we're going to work together. So if they were going to come out with a new console, then it should be completely different. And I guess I just want to know, what is it that would really compel people to leave, or also want to buy that, not just from the name? Because a lot of people, it's been a little while, a lot of people don't have the name recognition outside of Sonic, and it's unfortunate. Like the controller, I remember the controller. Those things were great. I love those. I remember, like I said, the memory card units, those were so different. I remember when Sega CD first came out, and that was like so exciting to me. All of these things that they were pioneering, and even their arcade games, the style of the games were always different than anything else. It's like they used a different graphics processor.
They had advanced engines, like for example, like for Virtua Fighter, they were the first 3D fighting game, so without them there wouldn't be a Tekken or other 3D fighting out there.
Right now, every console uses ATI graphics.
Yeah.
All three of them.
Yeah, and then they pioneered like a whole lot of things. And I still believe this is, the best controller here, the 6-button.
That is a good controller.
This controller of all time, cheaper for Street Fighter, all the fighting games. This is it right here. It's the GOAT right here. So, but yeah, definitely, they're always were ahead of the curve, and I appreciate everything they've done for current gen systems. Even I would love to see something from them. I know right now Japan announced that they're doing an Astro City Mini, which is a miniature arcade, handheld arcade system, which
Oh yeah, that little teen thing. Well, as long as it's not the Sega Mini, Game Gear thing that came out.
Oh no.
Yeah, I actually pre-ordered from Japan the little mini arcade, but it's not gonna come till like 2021, like January.
Oh wow, I want to
But
get those, but those are gonna be for display only. It's like I'm not even gonna turn them on. They're like, nope, display.
The Sega market for arcade is still really big though in Japan and China. That's one thing that they focus on is did you see that where they're focusing on their cloud gaming?
I saw the announcement on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're doing their big cloud gaming over there. That would be pretty cool if they did that here. Like if they had a cloud gaming arcade here, I think Sega would win and bring back the market for arcades because we need a proper arcade in the world. Period.
I know they're harder to find now.
Yeah.
By where I live here in New Haven, Connecticut, they have a place called Barcade. It's like an adult.
Oh no!
It's
Huey,
some.
Like
Huey, we couldn't hear you.
Only
Couldn't
got
hear you
half
for
of that.
like 15 seconds. Couldn't hear you, or 10 seconds. Repeat that.
Oh. Okay, yeah. So by where I live, there's this place called Barcade where they combine a bar, atmosphere with arcades. So they actually have like Street Fighter. They have Pac-Man, Mrs. Pac-Man. They have pinball machines, and you can actually buy tokens by the bartender. Like when you're getting your drink, like your beer or whatever, you can go ahead and get your tokens and start playing whatever game you want. It's actually pretty neat. It's called Barcade. I don't know if you guys in States over there, but in Connecticut they have that. But I just feel like there is a need. There is a kind of a want for that nostalgia vibe from the 90s to have arcades, and the retro community is definitely alive and booming, especially nowadays.
Yeah, within the last few years.
In Austin, they protect that fairly well. We have a handful of arcades called pinballs, which is like that. It's adult mixed with actual arcades. And then, we have a main event, and we have Evolution. So we have, I could right now name at least maybe 7 or 8 good arcades here. So, but Austin, they kind of do things a little different, but it's nice. It's nice to have a place to go that people that might have kids now, the people that were playing Sega might have kids now, and they can bring their kids to experience some of these same games that they grew up on.
Cool. We have a few places like that here in Houston, Texas too. They're kind of here and there and over there, but we have some places here too.
Who's playing that? Someone still playing? Oh, that's Lizzy in the background.
That's their background.
Yeah, I was thinking about the arcade thing. Is that we have? I started finding some since I moved to Wisconsin, and I located several of them. And I wanted to go so bad, and I was planning it for my birthday next month, and everything, of course, is washed off with what's going on with the pandemic right now with us. So it's like, man, when am I gonna get the chance to go back and get that nostalgic feeling and play these old classics arcades again? And I know I got the Super Mario Bros. 1983 original arcade in the house, but I need something more than that. I want to play all the classics, whether it's Killer Instinct or Ninja Turtles or all that stuff. But we have a few drinks, enjoy the arcade, but in the meantime, we'll have to wait a little while.
Yeah.
It's so funny you mentioned Killer Instinct. I remember thinking, growing up, all of Sega's games, when they had the game on the Sega and they had the game on the Super Nintendo, I personally preferred the game on the Sega. I'm with QA Ninja on that one, right? But then when Killer Instinct came out, that's when I made my switch.
Yeah, you're right.
I love Mortal Kombat, but I love Killer Instinct. So from that point on, if I could afford it at the time, I would always buy both. But I spent more time with Nintendo.
Hey guys, Thomas just texted VIP. We got a separate room we call the Gamerz VIP. Whenever we got people jump in, he said, "Thanks guys, that was fun. Hope your fans enjoy. Now it's time for Giants baseball.
It's very good.
Hey,
Yeah,
do you have on Twitter, Ian, or you don't?
I do. Yeah. It's all under the same thing. It's all under Ian of Austin. Again, I don't have a lot of gaming stuff on there just because I try to keep it related to my real estate work. However, what's interesting is, sure, I help people move cross country or move to Texas and all that, or buy and sell their houses. But what's interesting is I connect well with people that are gamers because I'm a gamer.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's funny because I've met multiple clients at things like LAN parties where you go and you bring your consoles or you bring your computers and you just kind of hang out. I do that a lot and it works out really, really, really well. Yeah. It's just, when you're in a group of gamers, everybody kind of understands.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I didn't know people still did LAN parties.
Yeah, it's like
that was
LAN
the thing
parties.
I did when I was in my 20s.
It's nostalgic too, right? And
yeah.
So right now, so after I get off tonight, after I get off of the stream, I could hop on. I've got some buddies that are playing online. We're always in a Discord together.
Cool.
It's a nice way to have a good time with people, like you said, that you can social distance. Even if you're together and you want to play a console, we play Switch together all the time. It's age and cultural and racial agnostic. Like none of that stuff matters when you find something that you all can enjoy playing and get together and laugh and have a good time.
That's what video games is all about. Absolutely.
That's one thing growing up that I always recognized is like my parents always taught me people don't have like skin colors, racist. They're just like friends. So like people in the gaming community, they have a stamp to me, gamer. I don't care. Black, white, Asian, whatever you may be, African American. You're just the gamer. You have that stamp on you already. Cool. You're a gamer. Oh, you like games? You're a gamer. Cool. You have no other brand to me but just a gamer.
Yeah. And it's tough. So now they just announced that Elon Musk is coming to Austin. He's building a Tesla Gigafactory here, one of the battery factories. The reason why I bring that up is because Elon Musk is a known gamer, right? Like people know that.
I know that.
Yeah, well, so it's amazing. And then Ronda Rousey, like she's been playing lots of games and stuff on Twitch. You have all these people that have kind of been closet gamers and they're just open with it, right?
And Danny Trejo, how do you say his last name? Trejo?
Danny Trejo?
Yeah, he had I think it was on Instagram, he had a picture of him playing Animal Crossing on the Switch.
See, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And there's so much more to it. I like to think of it like strategic, right? I'm basically watching a movie, but it's interactive. I still get the story, where other people will sit in a book or watch TV, and I'm like, yeah, but I can play TV. That's with people.
Yeah, and you're telling a story.
Yeah, yeah. You're you're immersed in the story. I'm really excited about all the technology, especially virtual reality and all that. That's where I feel like Nintendo missed the ball, and if Sega came back, that would be a huge opportunity. So, for example, I have an Oculus Quest, which is owned by Facebook. Mm-hmm. If there were Sega games on the Oculus Quest, or on a Sega headset, mm-hmm. where it had integrated audio and maybe no controllers, and they used to have, what was it? There was the 8-way, the octagonal pad, the fighting pad that the Sega used to have. What was that thing? The
big giant thing that kind of looked like a circle, right?
Well, it was on the ground. You would step on it and you could like punch and it would show the punching on the screen.
Oh man, I thought I dreamed about that. I was talking like that. I was just a dream. So that's real. Wow.
Sega did that. Sega did that however many years ago, 20 years ago. They had one of those things. And I thought, imagine playing Mortal Kombat where you're actually punching and kicking and stuff with real blood. And I was like, man, that's so cool. Nobody gets it. And now you have games where you're putting on headsets and you're doing that sort of thing. And so if Sega were to capitalize on that, this would be a great opportunity. Could you imagine if there was some kind of motion where you were playing a Sonic style game and you have a headset on and you have to like actually jump and grab the rings and do all those sorts of things? It's pretty cool.
Contact Sega about that's actually a really good idea.
It's a good way to get in shape, man.
And it's a great but more that all they're missing is a platform to be like a hardware platform to be able to make a good comeback, right? Yeah. Facebook owns Oculus, and because they own Oculus, they're not really good at sharing games. And that's what I feel the problem is with Oculus. But they're the only wireless one. I have an HTC Vive, but it sits in my box because it's wired. So I don't use it. And I can't play the games from either console. But if Sega came out, had a headset, and let you play any of the games they made on any of the other headsets, boom, they're back in the market and just killing it. It would be phenomenal.
Imagine, you know how Mortal Kombat's all gory and crazy now? Imagine if you, like you said, had a headset like that and you were actually in the mix, so to speak. That would be insane.
Somebody's spinal cord out.
Yeah, I know.
Oh man.
Hey, talk about like you're frustrated, I'm playing Mortal Kombat.
Calm down.
Remember the game Battletoads? You know,
yeah.
That would be so dope. That would
be cool.
That would be dope.
Or Earthworm Jim. Battletoads.
Oh yeah.
Battletoads was better, but I like a lot of those games. They were really good.
I feel like
you know what would be funny? That game Fart Man. That
Fart Man?
Yes.
Or better yet, remember Booger Man?
Booger Man. That one is that's a good one.
That's legendary. The top 10 right there.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Was that Super Nintendo only? Or was that
both?
It was both? Okay.
Both.
I love that game too. That was like Left 4 Dead in 2D.
I love Left 4 Dead actually. It's like my favorite.
That's what I'm saying. It was like that game before this whole uprising where people love zombie movies and zombie games. Like Zombies Ate My Neighbors. That was the game. Right there.
Man, could you imagine Left 4 Dead? Like when you're playing it, you're like, put it on. No. Oh my goodness.
Or imagine if they had like a Mike Tyson's Punch Out boxing style, something like that for a VR.
I've never beat that game. I still can't beat Mike Tyson to this day.
It's never beat
that. I can't beat that game.
It's pretty hard.
That game's
What
hard.
are you guys playing right now? What are you guys playing right now? Like, what's that game right now that you're playing?
Right now, I've been playing Sonic Dash on my phone. They added a couple of cute little characters, so I finally unlocked them. So I just play it for a little while every day until they bring something new out.
Do you know Tom's favorite game? I saw it in the video. Yeah, you got it.
What was it?
Yeah, Sonic 2.
Yeah, that's my favorite game of all time also.
Really? Yeah, because I was watching the video today and just getting more acquainted on his life and two, and just for Sonic 2, he says.
They should still seek his advice as an advisor, in my opinion. Like he's just got the vision. Has the vision.
He can totally take point.
So then let's see. Chichuki, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
What was your favorite Sega game?
My favorite Sega game is either Sonic 2 or NHL 94.
NHL 94.
I like that.
As me and my brother could sit down for hours and play NHL 94. Then splash in some Sonic Adventure also.
Yeah.
They're remaking that, aren't they? Did we talk about that? Sonic Adventure will be coming back, or something. I'm hearing that too. Like
I think I just bought every Sonic game on PC because Steam, I don't know if you ever use Steam, but it's a platform it's a digital platform for games, and they have all of them. They're always on sale. I have like every Sonic racing game, all the games that were really popular that they've ported. So
I'm gonna have to give that a try.
Steam has a lot of games, actually.
It's really cool because that Sonic racing game was actually, and no offense, Mr. Switch, it's actually better than Mario Kart. Like it has better.
No, it's not.
What do you say?
Touchy subject
Like, no, it's not.
Switch. Touchy subjects right there, sir.
So I'm big at being the devil's advocate. All I'm saying is you should try both.
I will try it
and give it some time and just really see, right? Because you know it's even funnier because when Diddy Kong Racing was out, that was actually my favorite over Mario Kart.
That's a cool game.
It was a cool game. They had planes and stuff. You didn't have that in Mario Kart. You were always on the ground. And then they evolved after they saw Diddy Kong Racing do that. I was like, oh, that's
yeah.
No, Sonic Racing is actually really cool. I bought it for the Switch. And that's the reason why I bought 2 other Pro controllers, because my family and I, we like to race. So I think it's a really fun game. If you just give it a try, it's pretty cool. It's a different experience. It's not Mario Kart, but Sonic's not Mario Kart neither. They're both different. So it's pretty cool. Not different in a bad way, but it's different in a good way. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, for the Sega Saturn, there's a game called Sonic R. Racing game. It's got Knuckles, it's got Tails, it's got the whole squad. That's a really good game for the Sega. It's called Sonic R. But Sonic doesn't need a racing car. He's like super fast anyway, right? Like Mario, he needs a racing
That's what I wondered.
That would make it even better. Imagine if he was racing and then he jumped out and just started running next to people.
Boss, right? Like a boss.
Yeah, like that was his ultimate or whatever, where he would jump out of the car and just run fast.
That's his fake
There was also
superpower move.
Sonic Drift, but that's for Game Gear.
Yeah.
See, I liked so many of the Sega games, and we just didn't have time to talk about a lot of them with Tom. For example, Dreamcast I actually really liked the Dreamcast. I know that was after his time. It was after his time, right?
Yeah.
With Sega, yeah. But man, the Dreamcast was like my favorite system by far. And
I did love that one.
And even the Saturn had like Panzer Dragoon and Knights, but the Dreamcast, they had one called I think it was called Toys, or it was like an army game where you were a bunch of toys in a room.
Was it like Army Men?
It wasn't Army Men, but it was like that. It was essentially Battlefield or Call of Duty, but you were in a room and you were using Army Men as the soldiers. And like you had the little toy planes and everything. And it was 4-player multiplayer on the same screen. Game changing. It was revolutionary. And it was great. And
Army Men, Sergeant's Heroes. Great game.
What was that called again, QA?
I think it's called, I just looked it up right now. Army Men, Sergeant's Heroes. I think that was the one for the Dreamcast. I'm gonna have to check that out. I have a Dreamcast. I have to check that out now. See?
Hold on. I still think that's off. I'm going to find this though. Oh God, Shenmue or Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yeah,
or
Shenmue was awesome.
Jet Set Radio, Power Stone. You remember Power Stone? That was Smash Brothers, or I guess it was more like it was kind of like that. It was kind of like a Smash Brothers before they had all those other.
Hey QA, can I keep your Dreamcast?
What was that?
Can I keep your Dreamcast?
Oh,
Crazy Taxi. You remember that? Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
I've had my Dreamcast since 2000. It's actually an original purchase. That Dreamcast was 2000.
Wow.
2000. I had before they went under, unfortunately.
That Dreamcast is older than some of the people I know.
Yeah, same. Oh, retro, we getting old.
That's what
I know, right?
It's called.
So I told my wife, I was all, dang, we're pushing 40. Woo!
It's all aching.
It's called Toy Commander.
Toy Commander. Okay. I just Googled that's next to Sergeant.
Toy Commander for Dreamcast. You don't know what you're missing. Toy Commander is the game that spawned like Call of Duty and Battlefield and all that. It was basically toys. What's that movie? Toy Story. It's like Toy Story and Battlefield in a game together. It's great.
Okay.
So let's see. Who do we miss? Lizzy, we got you. Sonic 2 is your game. Mr. Switch,
No.
what's your Sega game?
No, that was Tom's game.
Oh, that was Tom's game. What's your favorite Sega game?
Well, it depends. It's a toss-up between Sonic 1 or Sonic Spinball.
Sonic Spinball. That was good.
I love Sonic Spinball. I don't care what anybody says.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's
How about you,
awesome.
Mr. Switch?
Sega game, I loved Sonic 1 and Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim. Good call. Good call.
Definitely the memories kick back with that one. So you cue it.
I think I'm gonna say, if we're talking like original, well, the 16-bit system, I'm gonna say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters.
Oh,
Love
that was a good
that
one.
game so much.
Yeah, that was a good one.
You still got
Another
it?
example of one that was better than it was on the Super Nintendo. Just throwing that out there.
You can cut that out.
Just messing.
This is Sega Edition, so I better relax.
I like Ian. We gotta have Ian more often on here,
Yeah.
and Lizzy too.
Hey guys, so you guys know, everyone's information is in the. I'm just finishing adding more stuff in, so you can find Ian of Austin. You can find his Twitter and his YouTube, as well as everybody else's, in the description. So that way, I'm finishing adding Lizzie's and all that too. So yeah, in case you guys want to ever keep in touch, I added Ian in the VIP of Gamerz Room, so we can speak to him. He can get connected with all of us. So in the future for gaming talk, next week I'm thinking we're debating. We have a guest next week. It's just another awesome friend of mine, and we're just gonna talk whether it can be gaming or just whatever you want to talk about. You guys want to talk movies, or give me something like a hobby that you love, and let's kind of change it up a little bit next week. But we normally do gaming, just maybe if you got something you want to show or show and tell, whatever, just unless you have other ideas what you want to do for next week's podcast. It'll be Friday next week. Today's the Friday for us, so either way. Lizzy, you're invited, so you'd like to join us too as well. You can keep talking about Sonic. We'll talk about this. I'll talk to Tendler. You talk Sonic. Retro talks retro. QA talks QA. So whatever. It'll be fun. Ian, we can just kind of talk about what we all do. Just maybe get to know each other more. Ask each other questions next week.
That's a cool
Something
idea.
fun. Something just like I said. What else do you do behind that you want to talk about? Maybe, again, we might have other hobbies that might interest each other. Other people will watch, and so if you want to, I know you're busy. QA too. I know you got the personal life right now too. You can always jump in anytime when you're ready.
Yeah, definitely.
So, you guys want to finish up? Anyone? Since we're coming to the end right now, we've been on for like almost an hour and a half or 7 minutes. Anyone want to finish? Any last words?
Yeah, I do. Also, if you head over to our channel, to my channel, the link in the description. We're also our Gamerz Room merch. We have coffee mugs, hoodies, shirts, baby clothes, cell phone covers, all that. And all the proceeds from that, I've decided to, because they give you like a certain percentage, I'm going to set that aside for our Gamerz Room podcast. So anything purchased from that will go directly towards the podcast.
It's also in the description as well. In the very top of the description,
Okay.
You'll see the merch that goes straight to the merch channel of Retro Styles.
So all of that, all those proceeds do go to our Gamerz Room podcast.
Shirts are amazing. I'm gonna be wearing mine next week, but they're like super soft. They're like such good
Yeah,
quality.
they're really soft. Yeah, I noticed.
Yeah, I'm gonna wear this. I'm gonna take this off right away and just wear it only when I'm podcasting. So I do like the sweater. It feels Sonic-ish right now. I don't know. I just bought it just at GameStop, and I just got to give me a Sonic hat.
You're wearing a Hyrule hat.
What?
That was
Check
great.
it out. Yeah, the Hyrule. It got blue on it, so I was like,
That's the right hat to wear.
Yeah, it's a cool hat.
oh yeah, but for sure, man. I love my Zelda. So, but either way,
That jacket's pretty fresh. I like the red stripe on the whole side of the sleeve. It's fresh.
Yeah, so I appreciate everyone coming on, and Lizzy from Retro to QA to Chucky and Tom, and I know the other guys would have been great too. I know One Up and Switchbit had things going on, and so we like to keep. I like this group that we have here. Let's keep on bringing it, and let's do this every Friday. If you guys want to change days, because I know Retro, you're gonna be changing your work schedule in August, so we'll see if we can kind of play around and maybe do a Saturday or maybe a Wednesday. We'll have to see how your schedule works first, and we can maybe rotate a little bit. We mainly aim for Fridays, but we want to make sure to accommodate Retro as well too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got a question for Retro.
Yeah.
Can I buy your 32X behind you?
Oh,
Boy,
Power of
I got a story behind that. Just a short one. I know we're wrapping it up, but my cousin, he was getting rid of a bunch of his stuff because they're cleaning his house, and he said, "You can have it." And I said, "Well, what do you want in return?" I fixed 2 of his computers, and he gave me his Sega collection, and that was a part of his Sega collection. It was a 32X in the box.
Nice.
So
yeah, what's your price?
what's my price? That's my gold right here.
Well, it all depends. Ian will be talking to you afterwards, I'm sure.
if the price is right.
Oh, he's like,
That's good.
all right.
Thank
Lizzy,
you
guys, any guys have
for
any
allowing
questions
me to
for
participate.
Lizzy? Glad to have you, Ian. Lizzy, any questions for Lizzy?
No. That's okay.
Oh,
No,
who,
no, so
anybody?
definitely,
It's like that open-ended?
Huh?
What?
That's an open-ended question. Any questions for Lizzy? Yeah. Where'd you get that hat? You're rocking this. Yeah.
eBay. But you have to be careful because they will send you one and it'll be a kid size. Be very careful when you look for these because this is actually an adult size, so it stretches.
I'm kid
It's
size.
also a kid size. Yeah, so
My
be very
pride.
careful.
I stand 5'4.5". I'm kid size.
I have a peanut head, so
Kid
all
size.
adult hats are pretty small, are pretty big on me usually. Yeah.
I need extra big, stretchy.
Same.
I cover my bald spots, so yeah. So.
Oh yeah.
Stuff.
Any questions for each other? Ian, again, appreciate you. Chucky, Retro, QA, we're good. All right, guys. It was pretty good. I really enjoyed this. Definitely was exciting to have Tom, and I was kind of like, it still was big. This is like one of our biggest days yet, and man, we got to keep doing this. And if you guys got any friends too that you guys want to, it doesn't matter how high or how low or big or small, or doesn't matter the number, the quality. Just bring your friends in if you want to bring them in as a guest, and bring them in one at a time and so forth, and we'll just have a good time.
Definitely.
Okay.
All right, guys. I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'm gonna just cut off the YouTube thing, and you guys want to chit chat right after I turn off the YouTube. And some of you guys probably got lunch. I gotta have dinner. Dinner.
Lunch.
I'm in
I'm at
Connecticut,
dinner.
so it's like 10 o'clock right
It's like 10 o'clock here. Yeah.
now. There you go,
Late
Chucky.
dinner.
It's
All right,
about
guys.
7 o'clock, so dinner time for me.
I want to thank the viewers too, and all people who popped in. They were just talking, and we had Dogizome, and we had Odd Duck, and let's see who else, and whoever else came along. So we'll see you guys next time.
Okay.
Yes.
Take care,
Thank you guys very much. You guys have a good evening.
Everyone.
All right, thank you.